but there's talk about reboots that we don't need. Everything in Hollywood is a reboot. And they're bringing Carrie Bradshaw back, which I'm hoping they'll call it Sex and Can We Not Hear About It? Just rename the show for, instead of Sex and the City, just Old and Menopausal, probably in Florida now. All right, and now we've got, obviously, I'm sure you guys saw it, it was all in the news, but Trump got together with Putin. Here they are. It was apparently odd and not normal for another guy to ride in the Beast, which is the presidential limo. I would like to envision that what happened is the second that they got into that limo was Donald Trump just turned over to Putin and he goes, "Did you bring it?" And then he pulled out a vial of Russian pee from Donald Trump's favorite hooker. And he just instantly poured it on himself. All right, so I want to read this to you guys because so the two leaders holed up behind closed doors for around 3 hours at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage, Alaska. What they talked about, however, remains largely a mystery as the two leaders standing side by side at a joint news press conference revealed little of what progress they said was made, taking no questions from the press. And we don't know what happened behind closed doors. I'd like to think that they just spent 4 hours playing Connect 4. With Donald Trump trying to convince him, "No, 3 in a row, I win." And then, since we don't know what was said, I did take some scattered screenshots to see if maybe we could interpret what had actually happened at the meeting. And so here's Donald Trump going, "Hey, you guys want to see my O face?" And here they are walking together with Donald Trump saying, "You know, Vlad, I wore the shinier tie." Vlad, you did nothing to match the carpet. And then here's one more, is Donald Trump going to Putin. "So after this, you want to grab a pizza?" It is a little bit odd to have, I guess, the mortal enemy engaged in a war, and here they are just having, a casual interaction, but that's better. It's better that they're actually trying to figure out how we can get towards peace. Now, this was nice of Putin, was one of the few comments that he made was apparently, like Trump, Putin said there would have been no war had Trump been president. And then he also said, "We agree with Ghislaine that nothing concerning took place with Trump." But this is the way you got to butter up Trump. You got to say the things that make him look good in the news. Here was one more thing that it's hard for me to read off my computer, but oh yeah, this is what I thought was interesting. So it still remained to see whether discussion could lay out the groundwork for future progress. Doesn't sound like you got much down. Let's continue. Pursuing peace, the two made some headway and expressed optimism that discussions would continue. Trump told Fox News that the meeting was a 10 on a scale out of 10 in the sense that they got along great. In other words, they had fun hanging out. There was no peace plan, but he enjoyed Putin's company for an afternoon. And he said he expected Putin and President Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine would set up a future meeting. And then Trump made it clear that there was a long road ahead. There's no deal until there's a deal. And usually Donald Trump just says it's a done deal. So my guess is that this is not actually a done deal. It's kind of classic Donald Trump of, a good television show, but no details on what actually happened, no actual information. Now, I don't want to just shit on it because this was also in the same Wall Street Journal article. Some experts saying flattery doesn't work to change Putin's mind. He sees it as a weakness, said Mick Mulroy, a former Pentagon official during Trump's first term, and therefore something to be exploited, which obviously all the pro-war people are just going to shit on Donald Trump for even having the meeting and saying that this only emboldens Putin. Putin also got to have this incredible opportunity of getting together in the pictures. That's bullshit. At some point, they're going to have to sit down and come to terms, but it is kind of classic Donald Trump where they both went their own way. There's no secondary meeting, and none of the details have been discussed. One of the funnier moments, and we'll see, it's the only video I'm going to play because there's always a hassle with videos, but let's see if this will play for you guys. But this was the American press was asking Putin questions, and you'll see on his face, he's like, "You see, this is why you need gulags." Let's give this a watch. I can't. It's the only video, but it's just the classic, Mr. President, I got a question, I got a question, I got a question. Like just the hecking chickens. We got a question, I got a question. And the first thing that just came to mind is for all of the shit that they gave Donald Trump about the dignity of the office in front of world leaders, right? And you get just a freak show going on where he's sitting there, he's like, yeah, no wonder they fucking can't get anything done. Like, there's a freak show. All right, and then here was the, new topic. New topic, everybody. That's the end of that topic. New topic. Well, like I said, we move fast. We're ADD. We'll find out what happened. That was the Grand Big Peace Summit. 3 hours of them together, and none of the details whatsoever. All right, so this was from the Vigilant Fox, and I watched the video. There's no reason to watch it, and we just have tech errors anyways. But the current police chief made the statement that Donald Trump taking over the police force and having federal involvement in keeping D.C. safe. This is what he had to say. He said he's claiming that Trump has sown chaos and endangered the public safety by federalizing D.C. And that's why I just want to say it right here. I'm now coming out as a Fuentes First Christian American, okay? I want to say it because I don't know what that is, but apparently they don't hate Jews and they're American first, and I guess I can fit in. And let's just be fair. If a gay Mexican can run the white nationalists, I feel like a Jewish person should be allowed to join it. Okay? I feel like fair is fair, but I do honestly think, in some sense, we do need a reorganized society to make it less Jew lawyery, whiny bitch. Because everything's like, you're not making me safe. No, what you did's not making me safe. Oh, I really feel unsafe. You know, it's like a race to bigger bitch bottom. All right, next random topic. We're fucking flying, everybody. So this one caught my eye. This was from the Washington Post. Crackdowns on D.C.'s unhoused federal agents and National Guard troops target D.C.'s unhoused population. Don't want to call them homeless. Unhoused. Ordering them to shelters or face fines and jail time. Advocates like Miriam's Kitchen criticize the raids, emphasizing that D.C. remains home for these residents despite their lack of housing. And what does that mean? Like, oh man, this community is not the same since Roger stopped shitting behind that bench. You know, since Miriam wasn't around giving us all the needles we needed, it's just not the same community. Like, how do you claim, oh, it's still a home? It's like, it's not like a religious place to be in Washington, D.C., right? There's no connections that you have to the spot that you're homeless. But like I said, too much Jew whininess. All right. I've never done this before on the show, but on Friday, there was a wild amount of ridiculous New York Post stories. So here's just a collection of some wild New York Post stories. The first is British cops were jogging outfits to elicit catcalls and then arrest some men who hit on them. And my first thought was, I hope that they were DEI hires, where some fat black lady keeps coming back and she's like, yeah, no one's catcalling. I haven't busted anybody, right? And then also, like, what about the women that like catcalling, right? What about the bitches that now are like going to the bar drinking and they're like, what happened? Nobody's catcalling me. Like, did I lose my touch? All right, here's a wild one. There was a Toronto Film Festival that cut an October 7th doc because Hamas didn't give footage permission. And first is, don't the Jews run these things, right? I thought Jews run the media. Like, you're telling me you got a documentary about what happened? And this is like, Canada's just the dumbest place on the planet where only in Canada are they like, oh, you don't respect terrorist rights. They filmed that horrible footage, so no one else is allowed to show it. Did you get a sign off from Hamas? Not pro-Israel. I'm just saying, this is an outrageous story. All right, this was another one. Kim Kardashian breaks down as Kanye West admits he stopped taking meds in trailer for rapper's explosive new doc. And he made this statement, once again, not playing the video, but he made this statement in the preview where he said, what's nice about being bipolar is anything you say or do is an art piece. Yeah, what a great way to live your life. Like, yeah, I just diarrheaed in your pool. That's an art piece now. You're welcome. I know, I'm crazy. It's like, I'd love to get to that level of success where you just think doesn't matter what you do, it's an art piece because you did it. All right, one more. Actually, two more. Suspicious women hire me as a honey trap to test if their boyfriends will cheat. It's shocking how fast men fold. And women, don't do this. Like, if your boyfriend has a lady sliding into the DMs and she's super hot and he's just like, oh, this one's not a bot. What's going on here? You're just looking to have an argument. That's it, okay? Like if a dude with a boat slid into your DMs and he was like, hey, look at my boat, You might not ever go on the boat, but you'd be like, who's this dude with the boat? All right, and then here's, I got 2 more post stories. Like I said, it was a fucking wild day of post stories. Eric Adams advances fight against New York City's drug use with the new law allowing doctors to involuntarily commit addicts. And here's a picture of a guy who's nodding off. And I was just thinking how funny it could be to be nodding off on a street corner and then waking up a day later somewhere else, you know? Like, I don't know if you guys have ever nodded off. I have. I had, painkillers used to just be around more. And I had one New Year's where I took a bunch of Percocet and might have been the funnest night of my life. All I tried to do was walk to Dunkin' Donuts, and it took me 3.5 hours. And it might be the most fun I ever had. Like, you don't do that. That's not a way to live your life. But let me tell you, when you're in a good nod-off sleep and you're just, like, keeping your balance, like, don't move those. At least let them finish. You know what I mean? Like, that's like keeping a guy from, like, coming. You know what I mean? Like, the guy's already ruined his life. At least let him finish that. Like, let him enjoy his nod-off and then tell him, hey, you can't do this anymore. All right, and now here's the last New York Post story, but there's this lady going, I had no idea I was pregnant until I gave birth on the toilet on my vacation. And if you're a fat chick with a vagina that loose, are you really calling the newspaper to tell them? I'm just saying, if you really went to a bathroom, you thought you were taking a shit, and you turn around and you're like, what the fuck? Not again, another toilet baby? Someone call an ambulance. There's a living child in that toilet. Yeah, things that you should just keep to yourself. All right. This one was just Melania Trump demands Hunter Biden retracts comments linking her to Epstein. And one of the storylines is that Jeffrey Epstein introduced Melania to Epstein. Another newspaper published it. I think it was maybe the Daily Beast or one of those. And they got hit with, we might sue you. And so they instantly retracted it. The problem with Hunter Biden was he's like, fuck you, I'm a fucking crackhead, you know? Like, I'm not retracting shit. You guys can go fuck yourself. And he was smart. I don't know if you guys watched the interview, but he was like, I read it somewhere that it was reported, and so they don't want, like, he just said it in a slick enough way that they're not going to get away with it, or they're not going to be able to sue him for $1 billion. That's for sure. With that said, I don't know. I'll put it to you guys. Why do you think Donald Trump wants to move on from the Epstein story? What do you guys think is there that he doesn't want it? Do you think, like, my guess is that in my estimation, it's just that he's in power now. At some point, he won't be in power, and it's just not worth it for him to, like, someone at the CIA who's like, you're going to ruin our entire operation, and so we can't delve into this. And I think he's just kind of making the decision, whereas I think the general population kind of feels like, no, that's why we need to expose this, because if these institutions are that evil, they should not exist. And this is our opportunity to actually clean up this mess. My guess is him being in power is just not worth it, or that his name, he was just had enough affiliations with Jeffrey Epstein that even if he wasn't involved in whatever the other racket was, he doesn't want it out there. I don't know. Any other crazy theories, Bon Aqua people? No? All right, fair enough. He's what? Well, that's another possibility, but that's just essentially the intelligence is too valuable that he would rather, the intelligence agencies would rather still have their blackmail on people than just give it up. But that's still like, in my opinion, you might say if you were in charge that that's kind of just like, but it still just kind of allows for the continuation of institutional evil. This, once again, no details. The details on this, so the headline, this from the Telegraph, which I don't read, but Trump to offer Putin minerals for peace. And I'm just like, I didn't even understand the original mineral deal. What fucking Ponzi scheme is this now? Like we got a deal where we give money to the Ukraine and then we have the rights to the minerals and then we're going to give that to Putin. And now we're going to none of it makes any sense. With that said, like I said, the war hawks are trying to sell on we can't be weak and we can't be placating Putin. And so one of the things that they're trying to sell is that like Donald Trump would be giving mineral rights or mineral deals to Putin, when in reality, he's just allowing them to keep the territories that they already conquered or potentially swap for the other ones that they want. But you're going to see more of just this reporting of basically bashing Donald Trump for even taking the meeting and making it seem like any concessions that were given were actually giving Putin something, as opposed to just acknowledging this war is lost and people are dying for no reason. Trump warns Russia of severe consequences if Putin doesn't agree to stop war, which also, like, I mean, at some point, like, just, it's like double secret probation, okay? Like, what are we bombing them? Are we escalating the war? Are you going to do tariffs on India, which only is going to harm us? So, you know, like I said, I should have better organized that and had that at the top, but no details as of yet of what's going on there. As we are in the AJ Theater, I will delve into that apparently the forced sale of InfoWars is happening. You guys can go back down the Run Your Mouth archive. I am not endorsing Alex Jones. I don't follow Alex Jones. They did him dirty in that lawsuit. He never got to present his case in court. There was I forget the name of it, but a judgment. What's the name? Any lawyers out here? A default judgment against him, which basically meant that the judge got to decide that he was guilty and that the court case would only be about what kind of damages he would have to pay. And so he was never able to actually defend himself. And also, you know, it's like they were playing on the emotions as if he had actually done the harm to the kids. Also, other media companies that broadcasted it, no one else was responsible for it. If you want to say keeping this in the news is what creates harm, so then what about everyone that's reporting on the fact that Alex Jones is doing it? Anyways, I felt like they did him dirty in that court case. The actual selling of InfoWars, though, is interesting to me because, like, Alex Jones is the IP. You know what I mean? So, like, I would just think, who cares about the name InfoWars? Like, if they want this studio and they want the name, but Alex Jones can continue doing what he's doing, he still has an opportunity to make money. So I don't even really understand, like, I don't even understand why that's, like, a good judgment, because it doesn't successfully censor him, which the lawyer said openly in court is that you know, we can't allow him to continue to be able to do this to other people. It was literally said in court that, like, this is important because we need to censor this individual. And that's, you know, scary to anybody who believes in free speech, that you're going to bring court cases against people just to make sure that they're not allowed to, you know, imagine he didn't make money doing it, but he's just sharing his opinion on the internet. He should be allowed to continue to do that. But it seems like the final, I mean, we'll see. I think it was like a $1.1 billion was like the settlement, which I don't think he's coming up with that money. But if it gets settled with just selling InfoWars, I don't think, like, who cares? He can just continue what he's doing. Oversight Chair Bill Clinton is prime suspect in Epstein investigation. Oh, all right, yeah, here's why I put this here. So you got James Comer at the bottom, and are you guys familiar with that guy at all? No? So he was the one who ran basically the Biden investigations. And for anyone who's hoping that there will be justice or there will actually be an unwinding of the storyline, that guy might have been a great lawyer. But if you ever watch him on the news, he just sounds like a cattle rancher. Like, he just rattles off and, like, and then Epstein sold here, and then do I hear 4? Do I hear 4? Do I hear a 14-year-old? Do I hear a 15-year-old? Do I hear a 15-year-old? They're all guilty. Like, I'm just telling you, the Biden storyline of the fraud that took place in that family, I'm sure was juicy. And I'm sure that there were actual details that they found. Nothing happened. It was not sold well in the media. You had this guy out there rattling off these random facts and figures. Nothing happened with it. So I'm just saying, if you're excited about the possibility of actually unwinding that story, the fact that this guy's, like, on the lead on it, you know, I'm just betting against anything coming from it. All right, so just a couple more storylines. So obviously tariffs, I've done a lot of coverage on tariffs. I know there's a chunk in the audience that thinks that tariffs are going to bring back manufacturing jobs in the United States of America. In my opinion, they overlook the damage of the Fed and inflation and why we've lost those jobs. And then they also discount cheaper goods coming into the country and how many jobs that creates or allows for more wealth so that you can spend it on other items. But a lot of the audience is very into the idea of tariffs. Now, Donald Trump has already kind of engaged in trying to mask price increases being related to tariffs. I think he went after Walmart publicly, and then also recently he fired the person in charge of jobs reporting, which also made no sense because if you're looking for lower interest rates, a bad job report would create an argument. Like, you can't both have a perfect growing economy and then also be looking to push down interest rates. And a lot of people are of the perspective that the people in those positions are actually honest, and it's like shooting the messenger, and it actually harms the country because a lot of information and decisions are made off of the research that comes out of these departments. And so if you have bad information coming in, worse decisions are going to be made, or potentially less people want to lend money to the United States government. Sorry, I'm getting a little too technical out here. So anyways, Donald Trump is trying to keep down news stories or people from raising prices and then allocating it to the tariffs to try and mask that the tariffs will increase some prices. I'm not saying all prices. I'm not saying it's going to be drastic. I don't know when the price increases might take place, if it's going to be a one-time increase. But in my estimation, some prices are going to go up because producers are paying more for the raw goods. And so I don't know if any of you guys are actually iced tea drinkers, but it's been like 99 cents literally forever. And now because of the price of aluminum, there's a chance of it actually going up, which it would be great if they just literally put on like the Trump price, like $1.25 now. But my guess is they won't go that far. All right, 3 more. Luna says lawmakers have evidence of interdimensional beings. Did you guys watch that on Rogan? No? Well, she's the hottest lady in Congress, so I'd like to say if the hottest lady in Congress is talking, I'd listen, but then I turned on, I was like, I can't listen to this. I tuned out real quick. I don't know. Firstly, like, they don't define, like, what they mean by interdimensional beings. Like, are you saying, like, God and angels? Like, what the fuck do they research? And then, like, she was even quoting the CIA research about, like, astro projecting and being like, well, you know, they even looked into this. And I'm like, yeah, I think that, like, it would make sense. Listen, if you're the government, do you guys ever see the movie? It wasn't a great movie, but The Men Who Stare at Goats. Yeah. So I'm just saying it would make sense if you're the government, like, to spend, I don't know, a shit ton of money to research if there is paranormal stuff. Like, the fact that the government would research something is not actually indicative of the fact that it exists. If I was the government and you're trying to come up with weapons and way to stay relevant or way to stay powerful against other governments, I mean, like, I'm just saying, if I was running the government tomorrow, I would walk into the CIA and I'd be like, all right, who's working on the goofy shit? Do we need more money on it? Like, it makes sense that you would look into the goofy shit. Like, you wouldn't not want to study the goofy shit. That doesn't mean that it's real, but just, I don't know. I'm of the mindset, listen, aliens can exist. I have no fucking clue. But just every time, it's just so funny. It's like once the government starts telling me about it, I'm like, that sounds like bullshit. You know what I mean? The second it's coming from them, I'm like, I feel like you want to lie about something to put me back in my home. Like, I feel like you guys are setting up another COVID. All right.